Hi, everybody. Welcome to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of our 38 chapters that stretch from the triangle to the coast and all points in between. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And our goal each week as members is to help other people grow their business. And that's why BNI is the largest networking organization in the world because it works. Our small business success story this week is Scott French with Relevate Real Estate. Scott is in RDO9 Arete Business Leaders. They meet Wednesday mornings at 8:30 at Hope Community Church in Cary. And so, Scott, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for inviting.
Nope,
Appreciate
glad to
being here.
have you here. So one of the reasons I want to have Scott on, I've known him for a while, and just and his wife Trinity is a friend of the show. Been on, she was one of the original ones on here. So, but we always talk about growing a book of business, and Scott's a great case study for us today. So not only is he a realtor, he is married to a realtor. He's former 82nd Airborne Division. There's so many things to talk about here.
Wow.
So I like it because Scott's new to real estate. So we're going to learn how he's growing his book of business brand new. So Scott, you've been in real estate exactly how long now?
11 months.
Oh boy,
Licensed for 11 months.
are you in general? Are you a good test taker?
Yes, it takes a little bit. I have to like really cram.
Yeah.
So I have to go back when I get all the information. Then I have to go back and I have to like practice, practice, practice. If I can do it 2 or 3 times and kind of get it set, then I'm fine with tests. It doesn't really bother me. But I do have to prepare. Definitely prepare.
Yeah. In a previous life in Florida, I was a business broker, and in Florida, you had to have a real estate license. And I'm like, all right. So I drove and, to the classes for like 8 weeks or 9 weeks. I forget, like every Tuesday night. And so then you go in there and take the test. And for those of you who've never taken a test there's nothing in there but you and a computer and probably 22 other people taking tests for God knows what. There could have been I think there was a guy in there taking a general contractor test. So we're just literally sitting in a room, right? So I get done. I walk to the front desk. I said, my name is Mike Manning. Just finished my test. And she looked at her computer and now this is the first time I'd ever taken this test. She made the crucial mistake of saying, "Oh, why don't you walk over here into this room with me?" And I thought, dang it, I flunked. And now I'm hopping mad. It's like I wasted all this time. So we get in the room. She closes the door. She goes, "Congratulations, you passed the test." And I'm thinking, like, why didn't you lead with that right there before you drag me into the room? So, oh, but yeah.
I tell you, I was so worried and stressed when I took my test, and it's the same thing. It's like if you
Mhm.
pass, they just say, "Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations, you passed." And I had that same situation where it was like a good 15 seconds of handing it over, just like
Yeah.
sweating,
Yeah.
waiting for it, and it was a you passed. And it's like, thank God.
Now, I can't speak for you, but I found that in the years I was taking tests or classes or something, I'm really good at pass fail.
For sure.
I can make a 71 on about anything.
Those are my favorites.
So, all right, so Trinity French is your wife. Trinity works for Relevate as well. She's been on the show, one of the elite realtors in the area. So you've been around real estate for a long time. But what finally got you to the point of, okay, I'm going to get my license. I'm going all in on this.
So my parents were in sales most of their entire lives, right? So as I was growing up, they were a couple working together as a sole sales force for
Oh,
a meat stick company. So they were doing that. So I grew up in it. So it was always one of those things where, when I was doing something else and Trinity was in real estate, I always kind of joked, "Oh, I'm going to get my license and work with you." And, it was just kind of a thing that we talked about. And it was kind of a joke, kind of serious, like maybe in the future. And then, I was working in software sales, and it was a good job, made good money. But in that IT sales field, you're fighting to keep from getting laid off every year, right? Regardless of your performance, certain time of the year, July, August, they start laying people off, and then they start hiring people back in January, right? Just to help with their numbers. And I made it through 4 of those. In the fifth year, I got laid off. I started to look for another job in this field, and I thought, do I really want to get back into this and have to do the same thing of every year, hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm not going to be one of the ones that's laid off, right? So we talked about it, Trinity and I, and decided that maybe now's a good time for me to do it. I've always envied what she does. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm really good and enjoy talking to people face to face. So you know, when I made that decision, my main goal in that decision was actually to support my wife and to help Trinity, grow her business and kind of take some of the busy work and the things off of her
Mm.
plate to allow her to kind of grow her presence. Right. So we're a team, and that's what I wanted to be. So ultimately, that was my goal: get my license, and then kind of emulate what my folks did for 30 years, which was a success. So,
Right, being 11 months in, is it kinda going how you thought?
yeah, for me, all I knew about real estate before I got my license was hearing about it through Trinity when we
Mm,
were dating, when we got married. When she started, and when I first met her, she was hiring and coaching real estate agents. She
mhm.
was a licensed agent, but she wasn't practicing, right? So I got to hear a lot of the stories and kind of, how things go. And then once she decided to go off and become an agent on her own, then I just really kind of saw, like, what happens, right? All of the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, right? So I went in it because I just really, it was exciting. Like, it looked fun. Like, it was just one of those things where you just get to go out and talk to people. And when we were first starting to date before COVID, I was at, three networking events a week, essentially arm candy, right? Just there presenting, talking. I was still working for GoTo and Log Me In, but I wasn't really doing a lot to grow that business because my territory was in Chicago, right? Regardless of whether I lived here. So I was always trying to grow Trinity's business prior to me even being an agent, right? So it was a natural transition. I was excited to get my license and to go back and start doing that, talking to people, just being gregarious and what I love to do, right? And that's really what was exciting to me. So not knowing anything about the business other than what I learned from Trinity, um, it really got exciting for me. So I don't have bad habits to break. I'm coming in just knowing, what I've learned from her, and then, from the training itself. So to me, I have a little different set of challenges than maybe somebody that's been in the business for several years, right? I'm not trying to break bad habits. I'm trying to create habits that are going to be right from the start based on what I've seen from my wife doing it for the last 13. So ultimately, it is kind of what I've expected, but at the same time, there's a new surprise every.
So one of the things I've learned I've learned many things in BNI, but one of the things I've learned about the real estate world is there are first of all, there's what, like over 12,000 licensed agents in the triangle alone, right? So if people can just grasp that number, and the joke is everybody knows a realtor, right? So the one of the things I learned was a lot of people do it part time because when I hear the phrase, yeah, it allows me to have a flexible schedule. So that tells me, okay, you're not a hustler because what I've learned about you guys and the realtors and the mortgage lenders that made it through 2009 and they've made it through COVID and they've made it through 8% interest rates are the hustlers. And I'm assuming, that well, you started at, kinda one of the tougher times, but that's what I've learned about your industry, man, is the talk about the only the strong survive, I think it is, and you've seen some people come and go in your time, but you kinda understood what it takes to get through those tough times.
Absolutely. I mean, it really takes an effort. You really have to buy in. It's not for the weak, right?
Mm,
It's one of those things where you are doing hours and hours and hours of work, and you're spending money, right? Whether
mm,
you're doing a listing or whether you're with a buyer's agent, it's costing you money, right? So your whole situation is you are building up to whether it's a sale as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, and then you're going to get that lump sum, right? So if you're part time and you're thinking, oh, I'll get a couple of houses,
mm.
a year or whatever and make some cash, it's not like that. It is a full time job, right? So the biggest thing that I learned coming from software sales into real estate is there are no set hours anymore. There's
Mm,
no, oh, I'm going to go cut the grass on Saturday. No, I've probably got two open houses on Saturday, or I
mm.
have to show some houses or whatever. So the struggle is, trying to find time for yourself, right? The work life balance. A successful real estate agent is always working, and then trying to find that time to be able to recuperate and recover. Right,
You
but it is a
yeah.
full time job. It is always working.
And you, unlike a lot of us, you almost every time have to answer your phone whether you know the number or not, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, Trinity's been in the business a lot longer than I. So she will get phone calls. We've gotten clients from California,
Mhm,
from Connecticut, from other where we don't even know who they are. They've either found us through BNI,
mhm.
right, through the BNI website, or they know somebody that's reached out to us, and then maybe we might expect it, but if we're not answering our phone, then we are potentially losing business every single.
Yeah. On day one, 11-ish months ago, on day one, your first 30 days, what type of things did you do? So here's where we can help people listening that are getting ready to start a new book of business or a new job. What things did you do to get the word out that says, hey, I'm open for business and I'm licensed and ready to go?
Well, putting your face out there, right? Again, you, you need to be where people can see you and
Mm,
remember you, right? If I'm just putting a mailer out in the mail or something and hoping somebody sees it, they're going to see that for 2 seconds, they're going to throw it away, right? What we want to do as a successful real estate agent is we want to always be on top of mind, whether it's putting our faces out there in front of people, visiting networking events, whatever that is, or sending pop buys or anything we can do to engage with our current clients, and then be out there to just be available, to get new clients that way. And it's me going to a BNI event or going to another networking event and meeting with somebody who says, "Hey, I know somebody that might be moving here, or somebody that's looking to list their house." If I'm not out there to do that, then they're not thinking about me with their friend, about connecting us that way, right? They're just thinking, "Oh, I've got a friend, and then I might know Scott," but then they don't think about me unless I'm there reminding them, right? So it's just constant. It's constant, just always being out there, being available, and networking. That is the number one way, in my opinion, to grow your business. Is you got to people have to know you.
So when you are not networking, if you're at home, 8 o'clock at night, nowhere to go, Saturday morning, second cup of coffee, what kind of things are you doing to get word out about you?
Social media, typically, right? You want to be able to just, again, remind people, right? You want to go where people are, right? Social media is huge these days. As much as everybody I talk to wants to be on social media less, right? But we need to do what we need to do to be able to get our faces out there. So aside from just being face to face, is when I'm sitting here in the office and I'm trying to find ways to grow my business, well, guess what? I'm using
Mm,
social media, just
yeah.
like everybody else is.
Eventually, you knew once you got your real estate license, you were going to get into BNI, correct? So, how did that process go about, and how did you end up in RDO 9?
So, I had, before I was even in real estate, I was going to BNI events all the time, right? Especially pre-COVID. Trinity's always been in BNI as far as I've known her. And I grew, a sphere of people just by being around them, right? So when I got my license, I knew that I was going to want to be in a BNI group, just like what Trinity is, right? So Trinity had a client service manager, Peggy Hoffert, that retired, right? And she was the president of RDO 9. So I knew that I had already gotten my license, that I wanted to get into BNI, and that was a great fit, right? Trinity helped start that. So what I did is I just started ingratiating myself with the group, right? I started showing up to visiting, I started scheduling one-to-ones, I started doing all the things that I could so these people would know me, right? So that way, when it came time for Peggy to relinquish that seat and retire, I've already kind of got a foot in the door, right? And that's really what I wanted to do. I knew from day one I wanted to be in BNI, whether it was taking over for Peggy when she retired or trying to get into a different BNI group. The goal, in my opinion, with BNI is to grow myself and my wife's business,
Mm.
and BNI has been the most successful networking group that we have been able to do that in the 8 years that I've been with her doing this.
So, are you two? Do you and Trinity have a company name under Relevate?
We go by, Trinity's company name is Trendlandia
Mm,
Real Estate. So essentially, the way Elevate works a little bit different than other real estate agents, right? So Trinity is an agent. I am also a licensed agent, but I consider myself a client service manager. So what that does is that allows Trinity to grow her brand and her business, and then allows me also to do that, but I'm growing it under her, right? So anybody that I'm going to get, we're going to work together. But what that allows us to do, it allows me to go through and show houses, make sure transactions are going through properly, and doing all of that stuff. So allows Trinity to still be the face of the business and to grow our business, right? So essentially, she grows the business. She has client service managers that help with the transaction. We are just as involved as she is. So any buyers or sellers are going to know us just as much as they're going to know her. And then that is the way that we grow our business.
So if I hire you to help me either buy or sell my house, it doesn't matter. Uh, Give us an idea how many people within Relevate are going to touch that transaction, because I don't think people understand how many people are involved.
So Relevate in general, I think we've got 40 plus agents and over 30 client service managers, right? So Relevate as a company allows agents to go and do their thing, and then they have a pool of client service managers that they can use to help along with that transaction, right? For me, I just work with Trinity, right? So it's we're together, we're a group. Other client service managers may work with multiple agents other than just one, right? So in that situation, the situation with me and Trinity, if we were to go to say a buyer's orientation, we would go together. That buyer would know both me and Trinity. We would be just as involved through that entire process. If I'm unavailable or Trinity's unavailable to say show a home or something like that, we always have people that are available to jump in and assist with that, right? As far as the transaction and touching the transaction, we want to make sure that it is as few people as possible just to make sure that everything is correct. So my main responsibility as a client service manager, whether it's to a listing seller or a buyer, is to make sure that we are giving them all the information that they need to get the transaction to go through smoothly, and that I am watching it to make sure all of those check boxes are getting checked and nothing's getting missed, so we don't delay or, God forbid, miss a closing, right? That's
Yep.
ultimately what we do, is we're going to make sure that that process is going to go through, and we may have as few as two, as many as 4 to 6 people involved in any transaction at any time, but always going to have a pool. So just know, if there's a situation where Trinity and I, maybe we're out of town or something like that, because obviously we're married, so we may travel at the same time. We have people that are able to jump in and help. So it's not like you're missing out, and they're going to be just as involved and just as dedicated to that client as we are.
So I always like to ask my husband wife teams two questions only. They're very simple to answer. One is, what do you talk about at the end of the workday after like 6 o'clock when you're not going to a network event, you're both at home? And the best question is, who breaks the tie?
So I think you know the answer to that question. Uh, Uh, Trinity's the tiebreaker. Obviously she has, in business, she's
Yeah.
been involved a lot longer than I am, and I am constantly learning from her. And
Mhm.
every single transaction, I'm getting a little better, a little bit more knowledgeable, and enjoying it a little bit more. I'm always going to lean on her for that. In the personal aspect of it, I love to be married, so
Yeah. I'm
there's
with
a
you. Yep.
there's certain times where I'm like, okay, well, is it really worth the win?
Yeah.
So I'm typically the one to kind of let her take charge in that aspect, just because I'm a little non-confrontational. I don't love to argue and fight, and, do when I need to, but a happy wife is a happy life as far as I'm concerned.
So at the end of the day, how do you guys not talk about business when it's just the two of you at home?
Okay, so that's really hard. That's
Yes.
really hard. That is something that we struggle with, right?
No.
Because we don't have a 9 to 5 job,
No.
we may have 6 hours during the day where there's nothing going on, right? And then, well, as far as
Mm.
work is concerned, and then you've got a bunch of work at night. So a lot of times we are struggling to differentiate. Hey, let's not talk about work. Talk about something else or whatever. So it is a constant struggle with us because of how the nature of our business is. We don't work 9 to 5. We don't have regular business hours, so it's really tough. And that is a great point, Mike, that we struggle with. Right? We need to find times and ways to be able to kind of separate that personal from business.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I Can't imagine how.
Constant thing that we're working on.
Yeah, because it's yeah, I mean, it's 2 things in play here. One of it is you both work from the house, and I believe you guys each have your own office or
Right.
space to work, right? So, you both work from home, and then you both work in the same business for the same business, which is you guys. And to turn it off, and I always ask people, who's before you go to bed, which one is more likely to say, "Oh, let me just check my email real quick."
Okay. 1,000 times it's going to be Trinity. She is for
Yeah.
sure going to be the one to do that. Absolutely. Yeah. we we do really well. We're really, it's always a constant. I wouldn't say battle. It's
Yeah.
a constant like give and take, and we're really good about communicating, which makes it a whole lot easier for us.
Yeah.
So we'll try and talk about, okay, look, I'm struggling with this, or even with communicating with you about this, whether it's
Yeah.
personal or business or whatever. We're really good about talking about that and saying, okay, I need to find a way to get this out, and that's really working for us. Until we kind of figure out the best way to be able to keep that going. But
Yeah, and I drive Becky nuts because I start my sentences in the middle of my thought in my head, which she has no idea what went on before I started talking, and I would so now I'm trying to get better at, okay, changing subjects. It's about this. Let me proceed with my question because I can just drive her nuts, so I feel your pain on that. Alright, so if you can see the screen, folks, you see some pictures of dogs behind Scott. So, Scott, the dogs are doing well. Tell us the story of the names of the dogs.
okay, so let me tilt up just a little bit because there's some other dogs. So we have this up here at the top. There we go. I'm opposite here. This is Elvis. Elvis left the building last year. He was about 18 years old.
Yep.
He was actually the second. Trinity had another dog called Journey before we got together. I never got a chance to meet him, but then Elvis came along, and then under Elvis is Carlos Santana. He is a Chihuahua Yorkie mix as a rescue, just like Elvis. Upper left is Elton John, obviously dressed like his namesake, and then beneath him is Jimi Hendrix. They
Yep.
are all Chihuahua mixes, all
Yep.
rescues. And for Christmas a couple of years ago, I had an artist paint pictures of our dogs with their namesakes outfit.
Yep.
So started with Elvis, working our way down,
Yep.
and yeah, they're great. We love our boys.
So
I'm surprised you haven't heard them yet.
if you picked up on a theme, folks, A, they're both big music lovers, but B, that's why people hang out with them because they get stuff like this. So, but yeah, the Elton John one, that's when I first got to know you guys.
Or before that, Elton is a COVID dog, so we got him after we got married.
Who's been
And
with
I
you
know
the
you.
longest then?
Carlos is about
Carlos.
10.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Elton is about 5, and Jimmy's like 3
All right.
ish.
All right. I think that's hilarious. So yeah, glad you had
Love
the
my
pictures
boys.
up there. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
all
I
right.
love it. That's why I put them up here. Good,
I
great
figure
conversation.
if you
Right.
put them up there, I'm gonna talk about them because I know you. That's why when I watch TV and news or sports shows and they're interviewing somebody, I always look how they strategically place something behind them. And I'm not mad at somebody who puts their book that they just wrote right there because that's kind of the point of this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I like every now and then you'll see kids' drawings or pictures of something or just some
Yeah.
row of books or whatever. So all right. So when I have married guests on, I always like to ask them 2 questions. One is, how did you two meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
I think we tell the story the same way. Definitely not. So we met on a dating app. Not quite sure which dating app. We think possibly Tinder. We're not sure. We met and we dated casually for about a month. She was dating someone, had been dating him for several years. They were on a break. We dated casually, just kind of fizzled out. I'm sure she probably sent me on my way and went back with this other guy. Um, During that time, it was around Mardi Gras time. She's from
Mm,
Michigan,
mm,
so there's a lot of Polish folks up there. She had mentioned to me that she had missed punchkis. So punchki is a Polish
yeah.
jelly donut that is popular around the Mardi Gras time because of Lent, right? I had no idea what it was. But me, I'm a fixer. I'm always trying to solve problems. So I went on the hunt to find them. Couldn't find them. Fast forward to 4 years later, walking through a, grocery store, and she and I had kind of kept in touch, but not really, gotten back together or anything. I saw them in a grocery store. I took a picture and I texted them to her. She said, "Great, let's get together for drinks." So we got together and drink for drinks, and chit chatted. And I told her afterwards, I was like, "That felt like a date." Of course not. She did not. She's a network. She was meeting everybody. She's
Yep.
always trying to get in front of people. So I basically forced a date out of her. I was like, "Okay, let's keep going." And we, from that point on, we started dating, and then she fell in love with my family, and my family, and her mother were the ones that says, "This is a great guy. You need to along with." I'm glad we've been together 6 years. She's still with me.
It's funny though, and I'm a big fan of moment in time decision. So if you don't send that picture, right?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, you may or may
And
not
that
be.
was 4 years later.
Yeah,
Like, it was one of those things. It was like I was walking through a grocery store and I said, "Poochkies. Oh my God, Trinity." And
yep,
immediately light bulb went off. And then, shoot, a year later, we were engaged.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah. Yeah, but it's little things like that you remember. But I remember the first time you guys told me about Poochkies, I'm like, "Nah, I don't know what those are." And I learned about them. They're actually
yeah,
pretty good. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but
I got really lucky with that one. I'm gonna hold on to her as long as I can.
oh, yep, nope, I hear you on that. And when I do my chapter training, I generally refer to Trinity when I'm talking to people about building relationships, and she sums it up perfectly. She says, "I collect people."
Good people.
Yep. So either
But
to
good.
help them or they can help my people and vice versa. And it just made sense. Nobody said it any clearer than she had. So,
One of the things that I've kind of adapted from that is, yeah, she collects good people. We now collect good
yeah.
people. But what I like to do is I like to say that I'm trying to build a community,
Yep.
right? So it's not necessarily friends, right? It's not necessarily, vendors or whatever. It's you're collecting good people, so you have that pool to draw from if it's ever needed, right? Whether it's friends, vendors, whatever. I'm building a community. Rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if I'm helping you, you're going to help me. Basically, BNI on a larger scale. That's the way I
Yeah,
see it.
and I think business owners need to understand that to grow your business successfully, you need people you can count on, whether it's a CPA, a digital marketer, an electrician, anything like that. That you got to know those people to take care of your clients. And
Absolutely.
and you guys have a long list of them, don't you?
We do. That was the first job that I was tasked with when I got my real estate license. Is Trinity said, "Put our vendors in order. Get them
Yeah.
all. We need them together, right?" And then
Yep.
we vet them,
Yep.
right? So as a vendor, vendors are great, and then sometimes they might not be so great anymore. So we need to have multiples that we can call
Oh
on,
yeah.
right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
I always
So
hear
I've been
some.
keeping track of it.
I always hear sometimes from people, well, they probably already have 4 of me. I'm like, okay, get your name on the list. What if the other 4, 2
Always.
2 were slammed and 2 are on vacation? They gotta call somebody.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've had situations where, like, I went to we had a house go on the market, and the night before, I went over there to replace some light bulbs. Whenever I replaced the light bulb in the dining room fixture, and I blew the fixture,
Oh,
just replacing the light. So I didn't know. I put the light bulb in, it wasn't working. The circuit breaker, I didn't know what to do. So I'm have a house that's going on the market in less than 12 hours, and I'm calling an electrician saying, "Okay, I know you're not going to get here now, but I need this fixed ASAP." And I had to go through to get till I got to the third electrician before he was like, "We're on it. We're going to fix it."
yep.
And it turned out the switch was old as well. It was like 20 years old, so it blew the switch as well. So it was an easy fix, but I didn't know that. And it was wonderful for me that I had a backup, right? I
Yep.
didn't have like, "Oh, well, this electrician that I know is not available, so I'll just have to wait." No, no, no. I want two, three, four, five, whatever people that I can trust, that I can go through and know that I feel comfortable referring them for my clients or for anybody else that's looking for, an electrician or whatever it is.
So for the people, listening today, if you are growing a book of business, whether you own the business or not, just get your name on the list. Connect with them somehow, get your name on the list. Even sometimes when my brother and I had our commercial cleaning company, I would just drop stuff off and I would start, as I got better at that, I would ask them, "So, Scott, do you have do you have a commercial cleaner?" And if the answer is yes, I said, "Great. But just in case you're on vacation one day or something happens, would love to be, in your Rolodex and be a resource for you." And again, they'll remember that instead of like, "Here, you need to hire me." They're not gonna remember that. They will remember that, but not in a good way. So,
Right.
alright. So you are a veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division. The
Correct.
thing okay, what got you into the military?
Okay. This is a bit of an interesting story as well. Well, maybe not so interesting. I played football in high school. I didn't really apply myself that great. I've always been a smart guy. Just I wasn't quite ready to decide what I wanted to do. So, to be honest, my dad made that decision for me. He came in and said, "You're going to college. You're going to the army. Choose."
Yep.
So I was 16 years old and, going to recruiters and trying to decide what I wanted to do. I took my ASVAB exam and did extremely well. So I decided, maybe I might want to go to the army. Right, of the four branches, that was the one that called out to me the most. I went into the Met Center to choose my job, and they said, "Hey, what do you want to do? You can do anything you want. Anything in the army that you want to do, they have that job just like in the real world." So I said, "I want to be an architect. That'd be great." I didn't know at the time, and they said, "Great. Okay, you're going to sign up for 8 years, and then when you're done, you will be an architect." And I said, "Well, I'm 16 years old. That's half again my life. I am not ready to do that." And she said, "Oh," and I think that this is the trick. I really think
Yeah,
because she lit up and
yeah.
she looked at me and she said, "Do you want to jump out of airplanes?" And I was like, "Yes," immediately. Yes. And she said, "Great. You can sign on the line right here and you only have to go for 3 years."
Oh,
Right. But for me, 16 years old, I'm like, I can handle 3 years. That's
yeah.
nothing. Right. In retrospect, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I did it, but I should have been a little bit more mature and chosen a job that actually got me something when I got out, other than, in case we get invaded Red Dawn style. That's
Yeah,
about the commitment I
yeah,
got. They did pay for my college, and I'm glad.
yep,
But the other benefit to that is my little brother who saw what I did. He actually went in after, he's 4 years younger than me, and went in as an enlisted person, got his degree, worked for 4 years, got his degree, got his vet degree, and then went in back into the army. And he just retired this last year after 24 years in the army as a lieutenant colonel. So
nice.
he did it right.
Okay.
I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I,
Yeah,
I taught him. I learned a lot. I have a lot of friends that I know that were in the 82nd. It's great. So, I highly recommend the military for
yep,
people that are looking for something like
yep,
that, right? I didn't have
yep.
enough discipline or structure at that age, and I wasn't quite ready at the time to do it. Well, guess what? Basic training is going to knock that into you,
Yeah.
right? And before I knew it, I was right where my head was straight. I knew what I wanted to do, and after those 3 years, I was motivated,
Yeah,
right?
I
So,
think coming out of high school, there's a couple things every kid needs to do is 2 years in the military and 2 years in hospitality, so you can be treated like crap by people. You learn how to deal with that
yeah,
and stuff like that. We'll get to your world in a minute on that. So what did you carry over from the Army and the 82nd Airborne Division with regards to habits, structure, everything you're applying today in your business?
sure. First of all, is discipline.
Mm,
Right? I spent a lot of time when I was a kid, in high school, sleeping in, hanging out, doing all kinds of things. You can have fun, but you still have priorities and things that you have to do, right? And that's what I learned very quickly in the military was like, hey, you have to do this. You have to make sure that you're going to whatever classes that you're going to.
mm.
You need to be doing these things. You have to do these things first before you can go and have fun or do whatever, right? And that really is something that I learned tremendously in the military. Discipline and how to talk to people, respect, right? Regardless of who it is you're talking to, whether it's a child or someone that's your elder, you want to be able to treat somebody with respect because you have no idea when it is you're going to possibly need to maybe ask for something from someone or whatever. You want people to remember you as, oh man, that guy was great. I love that guy. I rubbed me the wrong way. So I learned very quickly to have discipline and to treat people with respect. And those were the two biggest things that I learned while I was there.
Yeah, you learn a lot from people when you watch them, how they treat wait staff and
Yep.
janitorial staff. And so my father-in-law, who is a retired colonel in the Air Force, he was a weather wing commander. I've seen that man get a four-star general and farm workers to drink the same cheap beer he likes just because he treated them with, "Hey, Scott, you look thirsty. Here, come on over here. I got a couple of beers
Yep.
for us." No matter your rank or standing in life. So I've learned a lot watching him. But you spent some time in the hospitality world. Now we're talking about customer service because you've dealt with some classic cases, both good and bad, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I went into the hospitality industry while I was in college. Wait tables, and I was a trainer. Teaching new servers and whatnot. And I really enjoyed people. It was always fun for me to be around people. Made good money, had a lot of really good fun, and met a lot of great people when I was doing it. And then grew up and went into bartending, and then eventually I went and left to work for IBM after I got out of college, and worked there for a couple of years and didn't enjoy it. So one day I went back to the restaurant for a beer, and my manager who hired me said, if you ever want to come back, there's always a job for you. I literally went back to IBM the next day and I quit. I went back to my restaurant as a bartender, and then within 2 months I was in management. So I worked in management for about 5 years. So I've kind of done everything in restaurants with the exception of the kitchen stuff. But I'll tell you, I learned a lot about people, kinds of people, how to treat people. Again, I think everybody should have to do that because you learn
Yep.
so much about how to deal with situations that are not comfortable, or people that are uncomfortable. You learn a lot, and I take a lot from that.
And that hospitality world gets in people's blood, and they know they got to get out of it, but they just can't, can they?
Yeah. Yeah, the reason I got out of it, I was in management. I loved the restaurant I worked for. I loved my job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going into work. The one issue that I had was I gave up my social, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I went when I was at IBM, like I had a 9 to 5 working. It was great. I went back to restaurants. All of my friends are all starting to get real jobs now.
Yeah.
So now they're off nights and weekends, and I'm working nights and weekends. So I did
Yeah.
that for probably 4 years where I had very little social life because I would have to plan a month ahead of time. Right. And that was the rough part about it, right? That was the rough. So ultimately the reason I got out of it was to get into sales, right? A restaurant is always, that's sales as well. But I got into outside sales working with my family to get out of that and to, you know, become an adult and find somebody to marry and good friends. I was missing that big part of my life. So although my job was good, my personal life wasn't. I've really been trying to find that work-life balance ever since. And
And I would
really hard.
imagine a couple times during your hospitality career, your friends came in and they were off the clock and they were drinking, having a
Yeah.
blast, and you were working.
They would make it a point to come in, right?
Yes.
It was like, and for a while, I was like, great, it's great to see you. And then it's like, oh, great, you guys are all drinking, and I'm just, not.
And you
So,
better tip well because I'm not happy right
right.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most of the time, like I was in management at the time, so they weren't even tipping me, but I wanted to tip my staff well. And, it was fun to see people. But again, when I was living in Atlanta at the time, we loved going to Braves games,
Mhm.
right? And in order to go to a Braves game, I had to ask off a month ahead of time. And that just
Yeah.
isn't something that's sustainable unless my circle of friends are all doing the same thing I'm doing.
Mm.
And as you start to get older, people get out of that because it's a,
No.
a tough game.
Do you have a recommendation for hospitality people on better ways to get a better tip?
I mean, kill them with kindness, right? I mean, if you get somebody that's abrasive, or you're not comfortable with them, they're being a jerk. Don't play into that,
Right.
right? Just be super nice all the time, and you'd be surprised how if you're dealing with somebody that's difficult, they may not be willing to give you a good tip or whatever, but there's probably somebody at that table that's going to shame them into it,
Yeah.
right? They're going to come to them and go, okay, look, you're being a jerk. And, me as a server or manager or whatever, I'm going to be super nice to them all the time. And then they're going to look at it and they're going to look inward and go, oh, maybe I'm the one that's needs to
Yeah.
change. So that's really it. It's just, be yourself, be kind all the time, and push through it. If you get frustrated, think about that later. Vent to your friends
Yeah.
afterwards, right? Just, internalize it, be polite, be your best self, and then you can go and vent to your wife.
I read a story a couple months ago that one of the questions that hospitality, mainly wait staff, hate answering is, "Oh, what do you recommend?"
Because they're gonna pick the most expensive thing on the menu. Or there's some sort of competition going on where everybody's
Mm,
trying to sell the special,
yeah,
right? Anytime, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to get somebody that's going to pick something. Do I want the ribeye or the chicken? Well, the ribeye's $8 more, so I'm going
yeah,
to suggest the ribeye,
yeah.
right? So that's really it. Unless rarely, every once in a while you'll get somebody that'll be like, "Oh, I love this." You can't, go wrong with this. But in general, if somebody asks you that, they're going to suggest something that's going to give them a larger tip, obviously.
Now, if I ask a wait staff, "Oh, have you had this before?" Am I likely gonna get an honest answer that they haven't?
So, no, but for me, yes. I was always one to be like, look, I don't like Brussels,
Yeah,
right? So if somebody gives a nice Brussels sprout dish, I have said something like, we had a Brussels sprout dish in the last restaurant I worked at that had like bacon and all kinds of stuff in it, and people loved it. And of course, I tried it, and Brussels sprouts are
yeah,
disgusting to me. But I would tell people, hey, I am not a Brussels sprout fan, but as far as Brussels sprouts go, these are the best ones I've ever had,
yeah,
right? So I'll be honest. Like, look, I don't like this, but I've tried it because I'm trying to do a service to my clients, so I can explain to them what it tastes like or whatever. And I'm not going to lie to them and go, "Oh, it's delicious,"
mm,
whatever. Because if they come back and go, "Oh, this is garbage,"
mm,
and I knew it was garbage already, now I'm the jerk, right? So I'm trying to be honest with them, like, "Hey, people love it. I'm not a Brussels sprout fan, but it's a huge seller." Something like that, right? As opposed
yeah,
to not lying to them
yeah.
or leading them in the wrong direction. Be honest with them, but also give them the opportunity to make that decision themselves.
Yeah, and I share your disdain for Brussels sprouts, and if bacon can't make a certain food taste good, then it's awful, because
Right.
bacon helps everything. Yeah, I'm one of
Yes.
those. Duck Donuts, folks, if you've never gone to Duck Donuts, they have a maple bacon donut, outstanding, so
Best donut there.
and you're welcome for that recommendation, so Duck Donuts, maple bacon, others may make it, but those are the best ones, so
That's a good one.
all right, Scott. So, potential realtors listening today, what's a couple things just preparing for the profession, not taking the test and all that good stuff, selling a house and all that, just preparing to be a realtor? What the stuff you've seen from Trinity and now you're doing it, what are a couple things they just need to be able to do or don't do to be successful in that industry?
So the number one for me is time management. Right? You're self-employed as a real estate agent.
Mm,
If you're working under Relevate or Bob Morrissey or anybody else, you're working under them, but you're essentially your own boss, right? So you are responsible for your own time. If you're not able to manage your time well, you're going to find that you're wasting so much time and you're not getting anything done. So the best thing for you to do is find a way to manage your time, whether it's write everything down. I go by my calendar. I put everything on my calendar to make sure that I'm setting aside time to do things, whether it's admin work or making phone calls or whatever. The number one thing you need to be able to do is stay organized, right? Because there's nobody that's going to be looking over your shoulder saying, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" You're only going to see that later on when you're making less money.
and I know there's no black and white answer on this, but they should expect to go how long without cashing a check?
Oh, okay. Well, are you talking about from the first transaction?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you get your first, however long it takes you to get that client, you get that client under contract, right? That you're looking at maybe 30 days on average to get paid. That being said, if you're listing, if you have a listing client, you're looking to sell that house, you have to prepare that house. You have to get it ready to get on the market. That may take a couple of weeks. That may take 6 months,
Yep.
right? So it really just depends. You have to, at Relevate, we're going to perfectly price and properly prepare. Right. So we want to make sure that when somebody sees a house that we're listing, that it is the best possible version of that house that it can be. So when somebody walks in, they go, "I can live here. I feel like I can live here." Versus, "Oh, I can live here, but we're going to have to replace the carpets or whatever. And then those tallies start getting up in their head, and then it's obviously more expensive than it actually would be. Now they're thinking about things they can fix, not how can I live, right? So
Yeah.
that's
So let
very
me
important.
drill down on that then. If they pass their test Friday and they open Mike's real estate office, how long should I be prepared to not be making any money?
4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say if you are leaving another profession and you are going into real estate to start that business, first and foremost, I would not suggest doing it part time, right?
Yep.
Jump in head first, both feet, do it. That being said, you need to have a cushion. 4 to 6 months of to be able to pay your bills and everything just to get you started. That would be a good.
Yeah, and back to the part-time thing, we talked about that and we kind of joked about it, but it's real, folks, because if you're doing this part-time, then part of your time being a realtor is focused on something else and you're not up with the
Yep.
trends, with the market numbers and anything like that. And the last thing you need to not be able to do is answer a question I ask you about, "Oh, so this neighborhood." And you're like, well, yeah. So I'm with you, Scott, and a lot of people mess that up going in part-time, so folks, don't do it. Don't do it, so alright, so Scott, thanks for
You're
being on
setting
this.
yourself up for failure
Oh, yeah,
if you do.
big time,
Yeah.
yep. So anyways, thanks for being on the show today. Enjoyed it very much. Good luck getting to month 12. I have confidence in you that you'll get to the end of the year.
Thank you.
And folks, you need a qualified realtor for a couple of reasons. One is don't and my one of my favorite people in BNI is Uncle Billy. So you tell me, Mike, 400,000 is what we're gonna list your house at. But my Uncle Billy, oh, Scott, no, my Uncle Billy said it's like 445. And then your only question back to me is, "Oh, Mike, is your Uncle Billy a realtor?" No, but he dabbles in real estate. He loves it. So
Yeah.
don't listen to Uncle Billy. Okay. Listen to somebody, a professional like Scott in Trinity, to list your house correctly so it sells, folks, because the last thing you want to do is have that thing sitting there for 3 or 4 months. Yeah. So, and you also need a good realtor to negotiate if you're selling, should you get multiple offers? Because, Scott, I think this is right. Sometimes the highest bid is not the best one to take.
Sure, for sure. A lot of times you will take somebody that will, you may have the difference between a cash offer and maybe an FHA loan or something like that. But you also might have, like, what we do with our buyers is we encourage them to write a letter to the seller,
Yep.
right? So if you go under multiple offers, we actually had a client win a deal, was it a couple of months ago? And she wrote a letter, and it was the letter that caused them to take that. And it was less than the highest offer. It wasn't by much. It was like 5 grand or whatever. But the fact is, people fall in love with the home. It's their home. They want it to go to somebody that's going to take care of it.
Mhm.
So if you're going to get a letter from somebody that says, "Oh my God, my kids are going to love the playground in the backyard and the fence, and it's going to be great," and whatever, they're going to be much more likely to want to accept that offer versus one that's just a little bit more that maybe is a company that's going to rent it,
And
right? So
folks,
it's
yep. And that's why you need a professional realtor to represent you. So please, we've been putting Scott's number up on the screen here. So give him a call. Just ask him a couple questions. You'll get started on that. Not a problem. So, Scott, enjoyed having you on the show today. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate
And
it.
we'll see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.